Hi, I'm Bradley Barth with SE Media, and I'm coming to you from the Identiverse Conference in Denver, Colorado. And I'm here with a special guest today. He's Randy Harris, Director of Product Identity at General Electric. Randy, I really appreciate you being here, and I know that you actually were a speaker today in one of the sessions talking about self-service in the identity space. That's what I want to talk to you about today. I want to get a better sense as to the use cases for self-service identity. Make the best business case you can for me. How can it be used and employed in an organization? And talk about the benefits as if you were explaining it to a C-level executive who wants to know what they're getting out of it.
Self-service identity works on a lot of levels because depending on the users, if you're vetting employees, sometimes vetting an employee can take up to 30 days. If you're doing self-service, you can automate a lot of that vetting. You can reach out in the background and do that kind of work. Or if you're working with a distributor, how do you know that that's the actual distributor that's registering for your system? You can automate a lot of those checks and in the background come back and vet them much more quickly, onboard them, and the savings of that can be enormous. Number one, in opportunity cost, user and happiness, enjoyment, and cost out of the system. You know, it's always about cost out of the system. When you talk to a C-level executive, they're not interested in the cool IT system. They're interested in what result did you bring to the company.
Well, that's for sure. You bring up an interesting point about onboarding the employees, or when they first come aboard. Uh, does the concept of self-service apply and work for all stages of an employee life cycle? Can you pretty much have them self-service through everything, even them leaving the organization?
Yes, self-service can work through the full life cycle. Um, um, I'll pull out, as I said, we support retirees, employees, contractors. So I'll just pick out a couple of classes. You know, with a contractor, let's use a contractor as an example. You have to periodically verify with the contracting company, is this guy still with you? Is it still going on? When they offboard, you can make that a self-service transaction. For an employee, every step of the way, periodically, you build a sea of self-service transactions and say, yes, this is still right. Yes, you're still here. You can do the offboarding the same way. And in terms of access management, then all of that varies by the access the particular employee has or the contractor has. You have to go through a vetting process, and there's all sorts of different authorizations that you have to review.
Now, when you're a very large, complex organization, much like General Electric is, I would imagine that that's a scenario where having self-service for all things identity management would definitely come in handy because you're dealing with a myriad of different business units and functions. You're dealing with third parties, as you say, contractors, employees, customers, and so there's a lot of complexity there, and so I would imagine self-service is a way to simplify.
Yes, that is a way to simplify. Basically, um, many years ago, more than 20 years ago, GE stepped back and said, and we are and remain a very complex, large enterprise. Uh, we need a centralized identity system. We need to define what that looks like, and then surrounding that centralized identity system has grown into a lot of self-service tools around being sure that the risk profiles are right. At GE, there is no question about what is the identity tool you should be used. And when we audit, the identity tool has to be our centralized identity tool. Do we give the app team some uh, latitude in how they authorize? Absolutely, you have to. Each business is a little different. Each contractor is a different. At GE, we have millions of identities that are overseen. So you build those self-service transactions tailored to that class of user and help them move through their life cycle. And we support 17 different languages. in those self-service tools. So,
Now, does do the concepts of identity, self-service, and security, do they play well together? Is there a good marriage there? Because obviously, if your IT department, if your security team is maybe going to be a little bit more hands off, and it's going to be a little bit more user controlled in terms of identity management, then that means that you might be, ceding certain decisions or practices to the user, and so could that be detrimental in any way to security? How do you make sure that it doesn't negatively affect security?
well, first off, any self-service transaction needs to be built with security first. When I said that earlier today, that's true. The first team you talk to when you're building something new for self-service is the security team. You build control points into each one of the security, and you also scale those control points on the risk and the access that the identity is going to have. And we have a layered defense, right? We look for abnormal behaviors. We look for other things, not all of which I can say, but we do have a layered defense inside of GE to hopefully prevent the bad actors. Most bad actions don't come from people from outside the company. They come from people inside the company. And you have to watch for that in the self-service transactions and just in the normal business transactions they do every day.
As an organization, how do you strategically decide your comfort level in terms of what level of self service you're going to allow for any particular group of user base, whether it be the consumer side or the employee side or a third party side? How do you decide what your tolerance level is for what you're going to allow the user to do versus where you want your identity or security or IT team to have more control?
Well, you step back at any transaction and you look at number one, what's the business benefit of doing this online self-service? And if the manual process is there, what are you replacing and what are the risk and the controls of that? And then you can take your new self-service process and say, what are the risk and controls that we're embedding? Are we mitigating risk? Are we making it safer? And are there some transactions that need to not be external? Or what are the thresholds for this transaction? Do you need to do both, MFA and another level of authentication to get into this tool? I mean, there are things at GE that should not be public, right? I mean, we working on new technology all the time. We're a technology company. We're building jet engines. And so with the end users, you tailor each of that. And as you build these self-service transactions, you just set the bar where the business is comfortable, where your security people are comfortable, and no matter what, you monitor the heck out of it. You always have monitors. You always know. You're always looking for the 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 outlier. And many times the outlier is just somebody innocently doing something they didn't do before. But then that out of the 99 times, you catch that one bad guy acting.
With a lot of organizations, especially smaller or mid-sized organizations, identity a lot of times falls under the umbrella of either the IT team or the security team. Some larger organizations, especially again where there's complexity, as we demonstrated with GE, they actually have a director or somebody who is the lead on identity. Explain maybe the benefits for an organization in specifically hiring someone with a specialization or expertise in the identity area instead of just having it fall under the broader umbrella of security or IT.
Well, it's interesting because right now, I work in GE corporate. I work in the identity team. But each of it, we service 7 businesses right now. Each of those businesses have identity teams. Because today, like it or not, your firewall isn't going to protect you. You have to know who's coming into your business and what they're doing. And identity is at the heart of that. It's at the heart of managing your routers. It's at the heart of managing your servers. It's at the heart of day-to-day business transactions. So building, even in a small business, a small identity team to oversee and help manage those identities will pay you back greatly over time.
Well, great. Thanks very much, Randy. I appreciate you spending some time and speaking with me today. That's Randy Harris from General Electric. I'm Bradley Barth from SC Media. And until next time, have a safe day online.